Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Hong. I'm the Regional Air Quality Fellow at New Voices, and for my summit, I wanted to talk about air quality and also kind of like air quality monitoring with a focus around like the Richmond San Pablo area because I live in San Pablo. Next slide, please. So kind of as like an intro to like what introduced me to like air quality monitoring. For our air quality project in New Voices, we connected like a topic to like air quality, and I wanted to talk about how food production and kind of like the agricultural side of food production has an impact on air quality. And for my case study, I focused on like this town in Florida that has like a lot of sugarcane fields in like the area, and the sugar companies there, as like part of the process for harvesting sugarcane, they burn like entire fields for like really extended periods of time, which produces like of course like a lot of like ash and like really harmful emissions. And it's like so bad that the residents there call it like black snow. It mostly affects like Black and Hispanic populations, and a lot of the residents and children grow up with really, really extreme respiratory conditions. And through this project, I learned about kind of like the importance of air quality monitoring systems, because in this town, their systems were really insufficient, and like it didn't measure like enough, like a wide range of like different compounds, and that allowed like the sugar cane companies to continue claiming that the air there was safe when it wasn't, and it was really obvious. And yeah, that kind of introduced me to like the realm of air quality monitoring. Next slide, please. As a little background to like Richmond, Richmond as an environmental justice community has a lot of residents who are people of color or like live in poverty, and the residents there like have a much higher like likelihood for developing certain health conditions like respiratory or like cardiovascular conditions, and this is due to like numerous sources of polluters in Richmond, including Chevron as a really big one, really dense like highway networks, like port activities, and other like little industry activities. And yeah, one of the effects is that children in Richmond grow up having like twice the rate of asthma as children like in neighboring counties or like cities. Next slide, please. And to get into kind of like some specific pollutants, and also like certain neighborhoods, I looked into an air pollution report by PSE, and PSE is an organization that works on like improving energy and like climate policies to better benefit the environment and people. It found that PM 2.5 levels were 20% higher in like south and north areas of the Richmond San Pablo area. So that's like where Chevron is, and in the north, like I believe like a landfill. And PM 2.5 is a pollutant that's harmful for like respiratory systems, and stuff like that. It also found that nitrogen dioxide concentrations were 30% higher in southern neighborhoods and 10% higher in other neighborhoods near like some of the major freeways. And this pollutant is really harmful because it like prevents oxygen from reaching like certain parts of like the body in like really high concentrations. So that can cause like a lot of headaches or like dizziness and stuff like that. And it was also found that black carbon concentrations were 50% higher in neighborhoods near I-580 as compared to like average levels. And this is most likely due to, of course, like all of like the vehicles and like traffic, but I believe like most likely because of like diesel trucks, because diesel trucks are known to like produce a lot of black carbon. Next slide, please. This was just in the report, and I thought it was a good way to like visualize like the different concentrations. So like the darker red colors show that the concentration of that pollutant is like much higher. So we see like on the left it shows like PM 2.5. It's like darker in the south and like in the north, and then on the right is like nitrogen dioxide. And yeah. Next slide, please. And I also wanted to go into like one of the major polluters of Richmond, which is the Chevron oil refinery, which has been in Richmond for over a century and has a really long history of environmental negligence. To kind of give like a perspective on like all of the people they like impact. 79% of people who live within a mile of the refinery are people of color, and 25% are below the national poverty line. And the statistic that really shocked me when I was researching this was that neighborhoods adjacent to Chevron are in the 99th percentile for asthma rates in the state. And there was also an explosion in 2012 that caused more than 50,000 people to have to seek respiratory treatment at hospitals and stuff like that. So Chevron's definitely like a huge like contributor to pollution in Richmond. Next slide, please. Oops, sorry. One slide before, yeah, yeah. And this was a tool that I found on the PSC website that just shows like some all of the different like stationary sources in Richmond. And stationary sources are basically like industrial facilities that like don't move. So yeah, they contribute to like some kind of emission. So we see like all of these like little circles on the screen like representing like different industries, and then there's just like this huge circle that's like 10 times the size of the other circles. And I just felt like that like really visualizes how much Chevron is impacting Richmond. And yeah, I thought this tool was cool because it shows like some of the different pollutants like PM 2.5 and also like how much. So yeah, I thought that tool was cool and a good way to like visualize things. Next slide, please. And to go into why air quality monitoring is important, one, it helps people and like professionals better understand the extent of air quality issues so that like the solutions can be created accordingly, because it can be like difficult to solve things that like aren't measured. It also helps medical professionals be more like informed on how to assist residents because they know what's in the air and they know what like residents are breathing in and what's impacting them. Um, and yeah, next slide, please. Um, Local air quality monitoring in particular is also really important because it allows like solutions to be addressed on like more of like a community-based level because every city is like different and they may be like impacted by different polluters or like different like concentrations of emissions and stuff like that. And then another reason why it's important is because poor air quality surrounds like vulnerable communities the most, and affects like the places that they work, live, play, and grow up. And so like having access to like air quality monitoring data can be, like empowering for a community. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this was kind of just to like compare like before and after. So Richmond did have like really insufficient monitoring. Like after the 2012 explosion with Chevron, the monitors at the time like they didn't measure like all of like the a wide range of like toxic compounds that were sending people to the ER and like to the hospitals and stuff like that. But now there are like larger networks of air quality monitors through like a few different organizations like PSE. And this helps empower residents because they're able to like know about like pollution sources in their community and they can look at like the quality in real time. Um, and this is especially important for people who may have like health sensitive like conditions. Next slide, please. Some gaps that still exist, though, is that sometimes like focusing on measuring too much can also be harmful because in certain cities like Richmond, where residents have already been experiencing like the impacts of their polluters for a really long time. Like sometimes focusing on measurement ends up like stalling like genuine community progress because coming up with like reduction strategies to combat air pollution is also important. Another gap is that some air quality monitors are not accessible in terms of price for residents who need it, and also that some communities of color are most affected by poor air quality but possess the least amount of air monitors. Next slide, please. Sorry. And so some areas for improvement in this is to have assessments for people who need air quality monitors. And this is for those neighborhoods that live near the major polluters because they are breathing in like those emissions like the most and would likely be like the most impacted health wise. And another one is with addressing like price barriers, which are to assist people who are like under resourced or can't afford it even if they need it like maybe the most, and so like having some kind of like funding program or like grants for that could be really beneficial. Next slide, please. And kind of on the realm of like areas for improvement or like benefits to the community, I wanted to talk about a different project that I did in New Voices, which was my park equity project focusing on Oakland. And in this project, I kind of just learned a lot about like the importance and value that parks and green spaces play into for a community. Regarding like air pollution in particular, they help reduce air temperatures, which help health impacts because warmer temperatures affect like the way that pollution disperses in an environment. It also like removes certain pollutants and like emissions. And in relation to like climate change in general, it provides like tree canopy, which is really important for shade on like heat waves and stuff like that. And they assist with like floodwater impacts and stormwater drainage. Next slide, please. And yeah, to tone in a little more on like PSC too, because they are part of like a lot of the solutions that went on in like Richmond. They conducted like an air monitoring assessment that aimed to like track emissions and patterns, track emission patterns and sources, which I kind of talked about in the report earlier. And through this, they kind of like learned about like priority neighborhoods, and that helped them like figure out like where to establish like air quality monitors and gather like real-time air pollution data. And they worked with residents to keep them informed and involved in strategies to like place air quality monitors, and they help raise awareness for the importance of like air quality monitoring in general through like informational posts and like certain outreach. Next slide, please. And to close off, I wanted to talk about some tracking that I did this year myself around my school. I used a tool called Purple Air Monitoring, which is a PM 2.5 measuring tool, and it helps create and it helps like create hyperlocal air quality data. So on the left with the legend, you see like the index, and it shows you like which numbers are considered like good air and like unhealthy air. So around my school, I mostly noticed like it was pretty good. It was all like mostly below 50, except for on like Christmas, it shot up to like an average of like 125. And I think that that was because people were probably burning like fires and stuff, which would contribute to PM 2.5. And yeah, I just thought this was a really cool tool because a lot of like my friends or like my family members too, they have asthma, so I've referred this to a few of them in case they would ever need it. And next slide, please. And yeah, that concludes my presentation. I thought it was really cool to learn about air quality this year and track it because I never really knew that air quality monitoring was like I didn't know that much about it, but also I didn't know that there were like so many gaps in air quality monitoring. And so this was really cool to learn about. And thank you for listening.